Hello, I'm Professor Chekitan Dev, and I teach marketing and branding at the hotel school, which is part of the Johnson College of Business. And my goal today is to spend a few minutes with you to talk about personal branding. Is how do you take advantage of all the opportunities presented to you as a student at Cornell, either a freshman or a transfer student, and at the end, do whatever it is that you either dreamed of doing when you came in or build that dream along the way. And so I want to talk to you about some of the essential principles around this idea of personal branding. So let me start with talking about how great brands are built, how great brands become successful. So one of the things I've learned about being a student of branding for almost 40 years is great brands often have a very great story to tell. So part of your job, part of your assignment, part of your challenge as a student at Cornell is finding your own story, finding a way to tell your own story, and finding a way to tell a clear, compelling, and credible story. So when you're telling a story to your classmates, to your instructors, to your recruiters, that it's something about that story that endears them to you. So not only are you considered an acceptable candidate, you're a Cornell student, so all Cornell students are acceptable. Not only are you an exceptional candidate, we recruit the best and brightest, so we have some of the best students in the world. But the key is for that job, or for that assignment, or for that investment, if you're doing a startup, how can you be the only candidate? That's the goal. And that's to really pay attention to building your personal brand. So talking about the story, and I'm going to give you a 5-part guideline on how to build your own story. So great brand stories typically have, in my both research and work in the field, 5 parts. And not surprisingly, the 5 parts spell the word brand. So let me walk you through them one by one. The B in brand stands for bold. So one of the things you have to do when you get to Cornell is step out of your comfort zone. Do new things, go to new places, meet new people. Be bold in seizing all the tremendous opportunities you have as a Cornell student. There's much more than you can ever grasp, but getting out there and finding out what's available and seizing those opportunities will be the first leg or the first pillar in your own brand. I think you'll be more enriched. I think you'll have a better idea of what's out there. So when you start to build your story, and it doesn't have to be something that you do right away. It can be something you can grow into. So it's not just about being bold, it's about becoming bold. Successful brands didn't get successful by being shy. Successful brands didn't get successful by not going out of your comfort zone and doing things that might be initially a little scary, but ultimately quite enriching. So that's the B in brand for bold. The R in brand is relevant. So one of the challenges you have in front of you is, of all the things you have available, what to spend your time on, what has the highest payoff. That's going to be a hard process. Much easier to say, very hard to do. So think of this in 3 categories. Think of relevance, as in how relevant your story is to somebody, in the 3 domains in which you have to make choices. Courses, the obvious one. So picking courses, required ones you have to do, electives you have some freedom on, is what courses you feel will give you the kind of insight, the kind of exposure that you feel will help build your own brand story. So that's coursework. Then there's co-curricular activities, anything that goes along with the course, projects, field trips, things that you feel are not strictly interaction in a classroom, but add on to your coursework and enrich the coursework in an interesting way. And then any extracurricular activities, clubs, associations, service, outreach, travel, study abroad, languages, things that you feel are part of your curricular experience, but not strictly in the course, but build that relevance. So in the end, the package you've developed for yourself, the story you're telling, is relevant to your peers, your instructors, your recruiters, your investors, so that the story that you're telling is also very relevant. So that's the R in brand, and that's relevant. The A in brand stands for authentic. This is the hard part, because you might feel the urge, you might feel the pressure to conform, do what everybody else is doing. I have a child in college, so I completely understand that. Whether it's something as whether you're drinking, how much you're drinking, what clothes you're wearing, there's a lot of pressure to conform. There's a lot of pressure to do what other people are doing. And so part of what you have to figure out is, what is it that makes you, you? That's the idea. What makes you, you? And that means being authentic to your true self, figuring out what is it that you value, and really not underplaying or underrating your instinct. As I often tell my children and also my students, and that is, if you have a choice, if you're trying to make a choice between 2 or 3 alternatives, sample each one of them, but in the end, you'll get a signal. You'll figure out which one feels right, and don't underestimate the power of that feeling for something that makes you different, makes you unique. So be authentic, be yourself, tell a story that includes you as you are, not try to be anything else. And I think you'll find that in the end, it's a much easier story to tell if you're authentic, because if you're trying to be something else, in the end, people will start to see cracks in the story, and you don't want to have that happen. So the A in brand is to be authentic. The N in brand is novel. So anybody associating with you values the fact that you bring something new. Now, I will say that there's some comfort in bringing something old, bringing something familiar, but also bringing a new point of view. So whether it's in a social setting with your fellow students, bringing a different point of view, even if you have to force yourself to come up with a point of view that is different from what everybody else is saying and might stir up the conversation, that could be helpful. If you're in a classroom, is to build a different point of view. At work, in a workplace, in an internship, or any kind of project, is bringing a novel point of view. So think to yourself about this novel ideas. What is it about you that could be new and interesting that makes your story that much more compelling than everybody else's story? Because in the end, it's your story, and then there's all these other thousands of stories that are out there competing for the same attention. So part of your assignment is to create a story that's novel, and that's novel specific to you. So that's N as a novel. In the end, the ultimate test, the final test, is the D in brand, which is different. So just like you know that you only have to read the websites of the most selective universities, and they say, we got more applicants than we can handle. And so we want to try to create a class that represents people with different points of view, different backgrounds, different orientations. Teams. Research has told us that heterogeneity within teams makes for high performance, makes for successful teams. So your peers understand, your professors understand, your employees understand that bringing a difference, bringing something that's different about you than all the others, enriches the group. And so don't be afraid, and find a way to be meaningfully different. It has to all tie back to the brand story. And if you're meaningfully different, that's the 5th pillar of your brand story. To sort of summarize, so really 5 things to remember, that as you go through and make all these choices and spend your time at Cornell, is don't be afraid, and get out there and be bold. That's the B. Make choices that are relevant. Be authentic, be true to yourself. Find things that you can do that don't go against your grain. There are lots of choices. You don't have to do things that you don't want to do. Try to find something that's new. Try to find something about, whether it's your point of view, whether it's something that you present, something that you find, that you bring to the party, that you bring to the table, that you bring to the job, that's new and interesting. And that's the 4th part. And then strive to be different, because a brand doesn't become successful if it looks like every other brand. Because as we say in the business of business, if all the brands are the same, the only thing left to negotiate is price, and the lowest price wins. If you're in fact different, then you can command a premium, you can command the attention of your peers, your investors, and your employers. So not to overplay this idea, but part of what you're doing at Cornell as a student is building your own brand, is over the course of the 4 years or 2 years, however much time you're here, is figure out ways in which you can get enough information, get enough experiences, build enough components to your life story, so that when you get in front of that dream employer, that dream investor, that dream assignment, at the end of the time you're here looking for that first placement after graduation, that you have a story to tell about yourself that's bold, that's relevant, that's authentic, that's novel, and that's different. Good luck.